So guys, I've spoken to you about the reverse plank, about the side plank, but I've not really spoken to you about the regular plank. No, not that one. Yeah, that's the one. So a lot of people think that the front plank is too basic of a movement. So basic, in fact, that it has barely any utility for anybody. This couldn't be further from the truth, because the front plank is actually a far more nuanced and interesting exercise than people give it credit for. It can help you to build a solid core, but it can also teach you important, beneficial movement patterns that will help you with healthier everyday movement, as well as advanced skills. You just need to know how to get the very most out of it and adapt it to fit your particular level. That's what we're going to do right now. So I think nearly everyone knows the basics of plank. It looks like this. Essentially what you're doing is putting your weight on your hands and on your feet and then keeping the rest of your body raised off the ground. What you might not know is that this is an anti-extension movement. What that means is that you're using an isometric contraction, using the strength in your core to prevent your spine from extending. Because if I were to let go of any tension and just sag, I'd go like that. And that's extension in my spine. So in order to prevent myself doing that, we call it anti-extension. And to achieve this, I'm using my rectus abdomini, the sheet of muscle on the front of my stomach, which gives me a six-pack, which is one of the reasons people quite like doing plank in the first place. I'm also using my transverse abdomini, the sling of muscle around the core, which helps to keep your stomach sucked in nice and flat, and also braces it against movement. Now actually, anti-extension is really important for preventing injury. A great example of this is if you're someone who wears a rucksack or any kind of bag every day to work. If you do this, then you've got weight pulling backwards and down on you for an extended period of time. If you're weak in this area, that could eventually lead to an overextension and injury. At the same time, even when you lift something in front of you, you might be lifting it in front of you, but you often lift and lean back in order to hoik it up into place. This can lead to injury if you don't have that anti-extension strength to straighten yourself back up again. Even when you throw something, you extend backwards and then flex forwards. So you need that anti-extension to drive power and also to keep a nice stable spine. This becomes even more important in moves like the handstand, where you want to keep a nice straight body as far as possible. If you go too far into extension, it's very hard to get back. This happens to me a lot. You end up with an ugly banana handstand. And of course, it's really important for movements like the front lever, where you're hanging from your arms because your legs want to extend down behind you and you're fighting that to stay in position. So advanced calisthenics athletes can also benefit from anti-extension. Now, what many people will tell you is the problem with the plank in this regard is that it's just not challenging enough. There's not enough resistance to really challenge yourself in that anti-extension position or to build thick and defined looking abs. It's therefore used as a kind of rehab exercise for the elderly, but even then people are like, is this enough? But guys, I'm not completely dense. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, cut the foreplay. Tell us about the drip. So this is Barbell Apparel, today's sponsor. So Barbell Apparel, as you can see, make really nice clothes designed specifically for those with a more active lifestyle, for your gym goers and your athletes. It fits really well. It looks great if you've got a more muscular frame. It's very flattering without being, you know, too Johnny Muscle. But it's also made from really nice, high quality material. Like this t-shirt feels really nice to wear. The designs are really good as well. You've got a wide range of different things you can wear, all of which look great. They have active wear for at the gym, of course, but they also have smarter clothing, your jeans, your shirts, which have all of those same properties. And they have like the best customer service tailored specifically to people like you and me. If you tear up your gym clothes in a particularly intense workout, they will replace them for you completely for free. And guys, this is actually a really good time to buy because Barbell Apparel is currently running a big discount. Right now, you can get any pair of jeans, chinos or pants for just $99 each. Use code BIONEER to get a free shirt with any purchase over $98. This includes performance shirts. Click the link below to check out my collection. barbellapparel.com/BIONEER. But this is kind of missing the point, because very often when you injure yourself lifting something, it's not lifting something extremely heavy. Usually it's either lifting something at an awkward angle or lifting something at the end of a long day when you're feeling fatigued, or of course both. This is where we need strength endurance, meaning we need to be strong for an extended period of time, and therefore giving ourselves a lighter resistance for a longer period of time is where the plank can be really useful. But at the same time, we can also use the plank in a number of other ways. We can adapt it to become more difficult, or we can adapt it to slightly alter the angle. And at the same time, the plank is useful for teaching us proper posture, how to position our spine, and then ingraining that movement pattern so that we move properly and healthily throughout the day, and so that we can access that position quickly when we need it for things like advanced calisthenics. So let's look at how to do that, shall we? So something you need to keep in mind when you're performing the plank is the alignment of your core, because there's more to it than just keeping a straight back. For example, you need to think about whether you want to tuck your tailbone or not. If you tuck your tailbone, it's going to make a straighter back. This is generally what's recommended to people. When we sit at a desk, we often sit with a slight anterior pelvic tilt. That means the pelvis is tilted forwards. By tucking it in, like so, we can actually address this to an extent. However, we don't actually walk around like this most of the time, and some people actually have the opposite problem. They have a posterior pelvic tilt, and so for them, they might want to practice trying to keep their buttocks nice and neutral. It depends on your goals. If you have lower back pain, then consider aiming to keep a neutral pelvis, because this is how we actually walk around and move. If you know you have an anterior pelvic tilt, then practicing tucking the tailbone is a great way to combat that. And if you're practicing for moves like the planche, then it's good practice to keep a tucked tailbone, so you can practice that there as well. That then brings us onto the shoulder blades, whether we want to retract or protract. Protracting the shoulder blades means pushing through the ground with your arms locked out. So you lock out your arms, then you push further by pushing through the shoulders. This is again the position you want if you're training for moves like the planche. So if you're into your calisthenics, this is the position you want to maintain. That said, some people suffer from rounded shoulder blades, so you might want to practice keeping them neutral once again. Retracting them isn't the best idea. You can use exercises like the swan pull instead. Just keep them nice and neutral along with the spine, and now you're practicing keeping a nice core. You want to keep the abs nice and tight at the same time to train the rectus abdomini and the transverse abdomini. And even if you're super strong, hold this for a couple of minutes. You're going to start feeling it, especially if you're engaging the muscles the way that you should be. Contract the glutes as well. Then, of course, there are all the different variations of plank, which you can use to make the move harder, easier, or just different, so that you're placing different forces on your body. Obviously, resting on your forearms is a simple way to make the plank a lot easier. You can also rest on your knees if you want to and build up. I said earlier that a lot of people think the plank is extremely easy, but they forget just how many people are out there and that they've probably been training for a long time and watching a lot of content on YouTube. There's no shame if you can't do the full plank. It is a difficult movement and you can build up to it. That said, if you want to make the move more difficult, then you've got a few great options as well. You can remove one hand. This, of course, makes it into an anti-rotation movement because your body now wants to rotate towards the ground. You now have to use your obliques and transverse abdomini in order to prevent that from happening and to keep your body nice and straight. Grant just made a great video about building an iron core using a leg raise variation. He made some great points about how having a weaker core actually makes you less energy efficient because you lose so much energy when you move. He talked about how it can help you to balance better having a stronger core. And so by training moves like this anti-rotational plank, you can develop that and move far more athletically. And again, it's also great for injury prevention. You guys know that I really like rotation and anti-rotation. You can also raise one leg if you want to make it more difficult still. And of course, this is great for building up to a one-armed push-up. Alternatively, another way to make this much more difficult is to stretch your arms out long in front of you. This makes it more like a lane push-up. Not only does this longer lever arm mean you're actually fighting more force, you're increasing the resistance, but it changes the center of gravity so that it's nearer to your lower back. And this is where it gets really challenging because you still don't want to create that curve in the lower back. This is how a lot of us can create injury during movement, and it's something I'm struggling with too. Focus on holding this position without letting your lower back cave in. This is a great way to build a really strong and durable core. And of course, it translates to cool moves like the lane push-up, like the dragon flag, And then of course you've got all the more moving variations. You can go from this kind of plank to on your hands. You can do ab rollouts, which I might make a whole video about one day, or you can do walkouts, whatever. There's tons of variation to the plank. There's no reason for you to look down on it or think that it's not useful. Even the most basic version of the plank is really powerful. And once you throw in these variations and focus on engaging the correct muscles, it becomes invaluable. So thanks a ton for watching, guys. I hope you found this video useful and interesting. Let me know in the comments down below if you use the plank or if it's something you're gonna start using now. If you want more good vibes and cool moves, then consider subscribing to the Bioneer, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching, and bye for now.